those lines of intervention? Former Tennessee Senator Fred Thompson said that Iran has already committed acts of war. Do you agree? And secondly, as part of that, what's your tripwire for a U.S. strike at Iran?
Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism. We all know that. Iran continues their efforts to build nuclear weapons. Iran is now exporting lethal IEDs and jihadists and suicide bombers into Iraq, killing American soldiers. The Iranians encouraged Hezbollah to attack Israel from Lebanon recently. Iran poses one of the greatest threats to the world, the security of the world, and in the Middle East. I believe the Iranians we have got to bring greater pressures, diplomatic, economic, political, join with our European allies, who still fear greatly the effect of the cutoff of oil into Europe. We have to work together. If the Russians and the Chinese are not helpful to us, then we had better figure out a way to put additional pressures, encouraging democracy and freedom within Iraq, which is a very cultured society, within Iran, which is a very cultured society. At the end of the day, we cannot allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons.
Let me follow up a little bit, Senator.
Sure.
What is your tripwire? Is it the building of a nuclear weapon, the threat to use a weapon once built, a delivery system? Is it preemptive or preventive?
My greatest fear is the Iranians acquire a nuclear weapon and give it to a terrorist organization. And there is a real threat of them doing that. The tripwire is that if they acquire these weapons, and our intelligence tells us that this is a real threat to the state of Israel, to other states in the region. But I want to emphasize, Chris, there's lots of additional efforts that can be made and must be made before we consider that option. There's lots of things we can do. That is the ultimately final option, and I don't think we need to exercise it at this time.
Congressman Tancredo, along those lines, imagine you're President of the United States, and this is a likely or a possible scenario, certainly plausible. You get a call from the Prime Minister of Israel, who's now Ehud Olmert, saying Israel's about to strike Iran's nuclear sites, and he wants U.S. help. What do you say?
I say that, look, if you look at this issue and stand back for just a second and say there are two kinds of Irans that we are going to have to deal with here, one headed by a gentleman who believes that he is going to be responsible for the coming of the 12th Imam, and a guy with a bomb. That should put us in the position of saying that anything we can do to stop that is imperative. And if Israel is put in that position, and if we need to be involved in order to protect both ourselves and the Israelis, then, of course, we respond in the appropriate fashion.
If the Prime Minister asks you for help, you say you will say yes.
Well, there are conditions, of course, under which we would say yes, but I'm telling you that if there is a threat to the existence of Israel, which is, by the way, I think a potential threat to the existence of the United States, then you have to come to the aid of Israel.
Mayor Giuliani, on that point.
It really depends on what our intelligence says. I mean, the reality is the use of military force against Iran would be very dangerous. It would be very provocative. The only thing worse would be Iran being a nuclear power. It's the worst nightmare of the Cold War, isn't it? The nuclear weapons in the hands of an irrational person, an irrational force. Ahmadinejad is clearly irrational. He has to understand it's not an option. He cannot have nuclear weapons. And he has to look at an American president, and he has to see Ronald Reagan. Remember, they looked in Ronald Reagan's eyes, and in 2 minutes, they released the hostages.
Thank you.